Hi, my name is Beth Massey, and welcome to the Windows Forms over Data video series. In this video, we're going to take a look at formatting options in our controls. It's always a good idea to present the user with a clear indication of what type of data is in a control. For instance, we always want a date control to only accept values in date formats. Visual Studio comes with many formatting options we can take advantage of, and I'm going to show you some today. So I've got our Order Manager project open already. This is the application we've been building in this video series. And I just added a new form called Form 8, and that's open now. So we've also been adding a bunch of data sets to our application, and I've got one open here called Orders Dataset, and it just has order and order details. So what I want to do first here is I want to make the ship date drop as a text box, so I can show you some formatting options on the date and the text box. So I'm now going to just drag this over as details onto our form, and that will create some controls for us that we can manipulate. The first control I want to take a look at here is the order date time picker. The date time picker has a property called format that allows us to specify how that date is displayed. Right now, by default, it's long format, so it spells out the day of the week, the month, then it puts the numbers for the month and the year. So I want to change this to short so that it'll just display the day, month, year format. And we can also take a look at minimum date and maximum date. So you can set these values. So for instance, let's say for maximum date, I just want to pick today. And for minimum date, let's just pick, say, January 1st, 2000. Okay, so let's run this and show you how this formatting works in the order date. Okay, so you can see we can actually edit these individually. So it gives us that option. So I could say 2/1/2005 maybe. Okay, so that makes it easy to enter. We can also drop this down and you'll see a calendar displayed. You can pick today and it'll automatically jump to today. Or you can click on the year and month here and you'll see that it zooms out to 2007. I can't go any further than April. And notice that I picked 2000 as our min date, so you only see like 2000 through 2007 selected here. So that's a pretty cool feature of this date time picker. And then it's paying attention to the formatting we're setting up too. Cool. So now let's format our text box. So formatting text box is a little bit different because it can hold any type of data, not just dates, so it doesn't have a format property. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to expand this data bindings and we're going to click on the advanced button here. And that gives us the formatting and advanced binding dialog here. And you can notice that we've got no formatting specified, but I could pick a date time here and you'll notice that we could specify the type. In this area, we could select the short or the long formats in a variety of ways. One other nice thing here is we can also specify what a null value would look like to the user. So we could say maybe, for instance, none. That means a lot more than null to a user, or blank. This gives them an indication that they haven't entered any data at all. So let's give this a try. So I'll hit F5. Now you'll see that we've got the ship date here, but if I enter, say, a new row, you'll notice that there's none, meaning that we haven't entered any data at all. And it's kind of cool because it's two-way. If we set a date, for instance, here, and say save the record, and now say we go and specify none again, and save the record, it actually will save a null back into the database when we type none. So that's pretty cool. So let's take a look at a couple more ways to format. Let's drag over our order details as a detail. And I'll just put that down here at the bottom of the form. And quickly I'll add another binding navigator to this so that we can scroll through our order details. And I'm just going to dock this down on the bottom. And then we'll set its binding source to the details. Okay, so you'll notice we've got price down here. Let me raise this up a little bit. And let's take a look at, before we format any of these values, what that looks like. So you'll see that the price is just a raw format here. We've got a currency storing in the database, and it's just coming through as a double here. Okay, so we want to format this as currency in our control as well. So we just click on this text box and we go into the same area, data bindings here in our advanced, and then we can select currency right here. It even defaults to 2 decimal places. So we can even specify scientific notation, a numeric, or even custom formatting. So you can just enter your own custom format. So this gives you complete control over how exactly you want your format to be. So I'm going to just specify currency here. Click OK. And now when we run it, we've got $4 down here. It's that easy. It really is. So let's see how we do this in code. So I'm going to go into our forms code here, and I'm going to add some code to our forms load. So let's create a text box on the fly and add a binding and its formatting all in code here. So I'm going to dim up a new text box. Okay, and then we're going to create a new binding. Okay, and we're going to start specifying some parameters here. The first thing is the property name, so we're going to bind to the text property of this text box. And the data source is our binding source, so that's order detail binding source here. And we're going to bind to the price field in our table. And the next thing is whether or not the formatting is able, the next parameter. So we're going to say, yes, the formatting, we want this to be formatted. And when it updates the data source on validation, meaning when we tab off of it, validation will fire, and then the binding will update the data source. So the next thing we can specify is the null value. You noticed we specified this on the dialog, so we can do that here as well. We could say none, for instance. And then the last thing you'll see is the format string. So that's where we specify the currency with 2 decimal places. So that sets up the formatting how we want. And now all we need to do is add that to the data bindings. Add B. And then let's just put this text box on our form, say where we can see it. Say 25 left 10. And let's make it a little different color. And then all we need to do now is just add it to our form's controls. Okay, so let's give this a try. Hit F5. And now you see up here in the corner, we've got $4, and it's formatted exactly how we want. Okay, so we can do all of this in code. So just to be clear, I'm going to comment this out for our next stuff, and I just want to make sure that you understand that what all we did was we can specify this price in our advanced data bindings and formatting dialog. So all I did was specify currency and 2 decimal places. Okay, so formatting can be done either in the code or here through the designer. So the next thing I want to show is the masked text box. So I'm going to go over to my data sources again, and we're going to just remove the ship date as a text box. And I want to drop on a masked text box. So if you don't see a control inside of the list when you drop down on your data sources window, you can click Customize, and you can select any control you want here. So I want to select masked text box. And when we drag this over, we'll get a masked text box, and I want to set the mask. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to set the short date format. Now what this means is that the users will see this in the text box, and so when they start typing, they'll get a clear indication of where the slashes are. They won't have to type them themselves. Okay, so what we need to do is we specify that first, and now we just need to go back up and specify underneath our data bindings on our advanced tab, the format. And the format is going to be in the form of the day, month, day, and then the year. There we go. So that's our format for month, day, year. Okay, so that's the trick. So now we run this. We'll see that our ship date is here, and it looks relatively the same, but except when we blank out the values, you'll notice that the formatting is still there, and it's giving us an indication of what we need to type. So 02, 02, 02. If we tab off, we get 2002. Okay, so that's how we format controls. And now we can format controls in all sorts of ways, and you can take a look at the formatting options by using masks. So these are the masks. If you look at the mask property, you can see how you can format all sorts of values. So the last thing I want to quickly show you is how to format values in a grid. And that's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to remove the details as details, and we're going to redrop this as a grid. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to edit some of these columns. And let's just remove these and only display the product and the quantity and the price. Okay, so quickly, let me just anchor this and stretch it out just a bit. There we go. We can see all of them. Now, what we want to do is we want to go back into Edit Columns, and price is going to need to be formatted as currency here, and it's pretty easy to do that. So what I'm going to do is go to the column type, make sure it's the text box, which it is by default, and then we're going to go ahead and select the default cell style. And the default cell style is where we can specify the format. And what we can do is we can just go ahead and click currency. Notice we have the same options, the custom, scientific, date, time, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and specify 2 decimal places. Click OK. And we'll run this, and you will see that our price will be formatted as a currency value. Okay, there you go. So it really is easy to format our values, and we want to use either masks or at least formatting on our controls so that our users have an easier time reading the data and entering the data. So I'd like to thank you for your time. If you'd like to check out the Visual Basic Developer Center, we'll be posting updates to these videos there. Please also check out the Visual Basic team blog and my blog for more information. Thanks again.